Man. Oh, hi. Hi everybody, this is Hybrid, and it's the end of the year, so I thought I would do a top 5 comic book movies of the year kind of list. Now, note, this is just my opinion. Obviously, it's not fact. There's no way you could do fact because different people have different opinions on different movies and all that stuff, but I did the best I could. Um, you're gonna notice on this list, it's really Marvel, DC, and Man of Steel is the only really DC comic thing on here because they only released Man of Steel. They didn't really release anything else. While Marvel had Fox with the Wolverine, and they had Iron Man 3 and Thor, and then they had Kick-Ass 2. So it's like, yeah, Marvel's just everywhere. But top 5 comic movies, I'll do a brief summary about why I think this is where it should be. And yeah, so number 1, Iron Man 3. Now, the reason why I have Iron Man 3 on this list, yes, it was a very controversial movie among fans, with the whole Mandarin twist, but the more I watch Iron Man 3, the more I like it. I watched it recently with White Sheep, and it's a brilliant film. A lot of people were mad about the whole Aldrich Killian thing, but when you think about it, that's a genius plot. Like, and he says it in the story, like, the Mandarin in the comics was a reflection on the American people's fears at that time, which was, I think, if I remember correctly, it was during the Vietnam War. Yeah, I was pretty sure it's Vietnam War, and basically the Mandarin was it was either the Mandarin was supposed to be representation of Vietnam, like the Viet Cong, stuff like that, the American people feared, or it was communism Chinese. I want to say it's the communism one with the Chinese, but I can't remember exactly which one because at the same time Iron Man's origin was tied to a trip to Vietnam. So I can't remember. I think it was the Chinese one. But anyways, it was a reflection of what the American people fear at that time. Now in the current day America, a lot of Americans, the big thing is terrorism, the terrorists in the Middle East. So this movie, the Mandarin was reflected well for a contemporary audience, whereas now the American people, the big thing is terrorism and the terrorists in the Middle East, stereotyped in the Middle East, and Aldrich Killian used that, and it was a genius plot, and I think it reflected the Mandarin correctly because the Mandarin's always been a brilliant adversary for Tony Stark, and this Mandarin was brilliant. He was the fear of the American people, terrorism. At the same time, he was what Iron Man's villains in comics always were originally, which were corrupt businessmen and other companies that were trying to steal the Iron Man tech or threatening Tony Stark's company in general. So I felt like it fit all those things. Also, it carried an overarching message of your inner demons. Like in this movie, we saw basically how Tony Stark made all of his own enemies and all of his own issues in life. Just being himself when he was younger, and then we get to see him come to terms with that and fight what his inner demons fight, like the things he really couldn't control and the things that he caused into play himself. And I thought they did a really good job with that. Yes, I felt like it was a bit too comedic throughout the whole film because they kept on doing one-liners like every other second, but I really, after watching the movie over and over again, getting past the dialogue, just the whole movie in general, I really enjoyed it. Now, number 2, the Wolverine. I really like the Wolverine. Reason why I like the Wolverine is because we get to see who Wolverine is. Now, the other X-Men movies have been chock full of Wolverine, but we never really get to see who Wolverine is. And in this movie, we really get a glimpse of Wolverine inside. Now, we've seen Wolverine on the outside, claws and all, but we never got to see the person of Wolverine. Like, the X-Men Origins movie tried doing that, the other X-Men films tried doing that, but they never really went into the character. What makes Wolverine Wolverine? But this one did. I think James Mangold, I think that's how you say his name, did a phenomenal job, direction-wise, really capturing Wolverine's character. And I think it was a great time to have it after the X-Men films, chronologically, because it really gave us a chance to have a Wolverine that's been through all that and is really reflective. So he's not trying to figure out who he is, but more he's looking back at who he was. So That's really something I liked about it. Also, I thought it was really good. Like, yes, the CGI for Silver Samurai was kind of near the end, but really, if that's the only reason you don't like this movie, that's a pretty bad excuse because tons of other comic movies have had horrible CGI. Not going to call any out, but I'm just saying. This movie was really well done, though. Hugh Jackman really put in work for this, and if any of the X Men films at this time for like solo movies deserve, a solo sequel, I say the Wolverine deserves a sequel. X-Men First Class deserves an actual sequel, not Days of Future Past, and that's it. So, moving on to number 3, Man of Steel. Now, initially I was very mixed on Man of Steel. Like, I loved the fact that we got to see Krypton, and that the whole thing of Krypton was actually treated as an actual alien race. Because it's like they don't want to go into Krypton, and then they want Superman to be like a god, so they don't go into the fact that it's an alien planet. But in this one, they actually go into the fact that, yes, it's an alien planet. So I liked how they showed that, even though a lot of people were like, it's just like Pandora and Avatar. Well, they're both alien planets, what are you going to do? So I did enjoy that. Obviously, I love Russell Crowe as an actor. Love all the movies he's been in. Ever since I was little when I saw Gladiator, I loved Russell Crowe. It's just something about him. He's always a badass at every role he's in. But, yeah, Man of Steel, I liked what they did. Like, the whole neck snapping thing. I liked how it was basically a testimony to the fact that heroes, you're not going to always win. And it had a message with it. Like, it took me a while to get that. But the more I watched the movie like 4 times to really get, what it's trying to say. Because a movie like this, it wouldn't do something controversial unless it's trying to say something. It's trying to make a statement. And for me, I felt like Man of Steel was trying to make a statement where you have to be your own person. You're not always going to win. Life won't be fair. And we saw that various times throughout the movie, with Jonathan Kent. And obviously, with Zod. And basically throughout the whole film, stuff happened in Clark's life that wasn't fair by any means to him. Especially someone like him, an outsider from the beginning. He was an alien. And, it's just, I found that really interesting. Like, yes, I feel like they could have handled the destruction better, which is why it's not number 1 on this list or number 2 on this list, number 3. Yes, I felt like they could handle the destruction of Metropolis that went on better. Except for the more I did view the movie, I noticed it wasn't all of Metropolis that got destroyed. It was like a part of Metropolis. So probably like one district is like demolished. That's really it. So it's not as major as a lot of people are making it out to be. But I still enjoyed the movie overall. I wish they wouldn't be so like dark with the coloring of it though, because Superman's supposed to be a very bright character. But this was an origin story. So looking at it as an origin story, I can only hope that for the sequel, even though it looks like they're trying to do a lot with the sequel, but I'm hoping with the sequel they really show Superman for what a lot of people identify him with, which is what everyone looks up to, like the man of tomorrow, who the human race can race up to. Like in the trailers, Jor-El said it himself. The people are gonna follow you, they're gonna stumble, etc. Like Superman is an example. He's a shining example. And I really hope they go with that, brighten him up a little bit. Superman is not supposed to be a super depressing character. He's supposed to be this bright character, this vibrant character, the light at the end of the tunnel kind of thing. So I hope they go with that. But looking at it for what Man of Steel is, especially an origin story, I really did enjoy it. I loved the sci-fi aspects of it. I loved how they actually went into that. They didn't treat it as taboo as the other ones have. So that's why it's number 3 on my list. So number 4, Thor: The Dark World. Now, I really did like Thor: The Dark World. I really did. The only reason it's number 4 on my list, though, is because it really went out of its way, I felt, personally, to set up for future events. Now, I'm not talking about the Collector, but I just mean, in general, like the way they did Odin didn't really mesh with me with how they showed Odin in the first film. Because Odin in the first film felt like a king. And, he felt like a ruler. But in this one, like I know they're trying to go for the more fatherly, side of Odin. Not just the, ruler part. But he just didn't seem as regal to me as he did in the first one. And that might have been the change in direction. And, because the first film, Kenneth Branagh, he's a very Shakespearean person with his style of filmmaking. So you really saw that, and that really went with Anthony Hopkins because I feel like he does really well in drama roles, not really down to earth actiony film like this was, because this was basically Game of Thrones with Thor to some degree. Um, but yeah, the way they did Malekith, I just like, at least with Iron Man 3, the villain, they explained it why maybe a personal villain and how it fits. So that was really nice. But in Kick-Ass, not Kick-Ass, sorry, in Thor: The Dark World, it's just Malekith was just kind of there. They had no hint to him before, or the Dark Elves beforehand, and it's just he's there. And then they had the Ether, which is really the Power Stone or Power Gem, but they kind of underplayed it in a way. So I was just like, when I first saw the movie, obviously I still liked the movie. It's not a bad movie. It's on the top 5 list, obviously, but it's just at the same time they could have executed better. Like, to me, it's like Iron Man 2. They had a lot going for it, and they really want to use this movie to set up for a lot of things. Sorry. Like, they're using this movie to kind of set up for Guardians of the Galaxy, because it's the only space-like movie they're going to have setting up. But also, another reason is that they really went out of their way to tie Jane Foster into it when she really didn't need to be in this movie, and the whole thing with Darcy's sidekick and all. Like, there was a lot of unneeded things in this film. So that's one reason it kind of went down on my list when I look back on it. It's not a bad movie by any means, don't get me wrong, but it's just, compared to the other films on this list, I just didn't feel like it beat them. Besides number 5 on my list, which is Kick-Ass 2. Now, the reason why Kick-Ass 2 is number 5, it's a fun movie, it's funny, but I felt some things were just really to me. Like, I'm not talking about like transition from comic to film, but example, the way they handled Kick-Ass's girlfriend from the first movie to the second movie. Like, in the comics, they weren't a couple like you saw them in the first movie, but it's just, they just kind of, like, the way they did that, it was like that one scene, at school, spontaneously, oh, you're cheating on me, blah, blah, blah. Why I'm cheating on you, we're done. Like, I was like, what? And then it's just, in general, it's just the way they're doing the story. It felt like they were trying to correct themselves as much as possible to make it more like the comic for some reason. But at the same time, I felt like they lost what made Kick-Ass 1 so much fun, which was the fact that, and it might have been because they have a different director too. Matthew Vaughn directed Kick-Ass 1. He did a fantastic job. But I just think for me, Kick-Ass 1 really excelled because it took inspiration from the comic and it just went with it. It did its own thing, made its own story, own universe, which is, awesome. But then Kick-Ass 2, it was like, we have this universe, but let's make it more like the comic. So let's take out these things, like take out Kick-Ass's girlfriend. Like, Mother Russia was well done. The Toxic Mega Cunts, which is what they're called in the comic, well done. But it's just like, I felt they lost their creativity. I felt like they lost their edge in Kick-Ass 2. So that is Hybrid's top 5 of 2013 comic book movies. 2014 is going to be a big year. We have everything from Guardians of the Galaxy, which is really hyped up right now, and all the actors are saying it's so good, so I'm hoping it's good. We have Days of Future Past, Captain America 2. Don't think we have any DC movies coming out until 2015, really, that I can think of live action. I might be wrong, but yeah, it's just, we have a lot coming up to look forward to as comic book movie fans, especially if you're a Marvel fan. So, this Hybrid, comment what's your favorite comic book movie and why. Is there anything on this list you disagree with me on? Do you think Thor should be number 1? Do you think Man of Steel should be number 5? Do you think Kick-Ass 2 should be number 1? Like, give me a reason why, because I might respond back. Maybe we can have a discussion about it, talk about it, 'cause I want to get your guys' opinions. I want to know what you guys are thinking, obviously, but just know I'm not trying to start arguments here, so don't try starting an argument with me, because you're going to lose. It's just how it works. You don't start a fight at the home team's base and expect to win. So, yeah. Hope everyone's having a good holidays. Happy New Year. This will be the last video of 2013, so look forward to seeing you guys 2014.